the chairman of the Boston Red Sox and one of the finalists to succeed Bud Selig as commissioner of Major League Baseball, where he serves on the business and media board and the competition committee. Tom Werner, good to see you, sir.
Nice to be here, Rich.
How are you?
My good friend, Rich.
My good friend, Tom. It's a pleasure to have you here on the show. Let's jump right into the topic du jour in Major League Baseball, which is Bryce Harper, one of the young stars of the game, calling baseball, quote-unquote, tired, and that essentially the unwritten rules are tamping personalities down. Would you agree with what Bryce Harper had to say, Tom?
Well, I don't want to sound... I agree with Bryce on a couple of points here, which is that it's really important that baseball have personalities. We live in a world in which sports competes with other forms of entertainment, and personalities transcend the game sometimes. And you know, as you know, I'm in the soccer business, and Ronaldo has 100 million Twitter followers. As you know, I have a relationship with LeBron James, who has 29 million Twitter followers. And I know, because this is the world that I'm interested in, is that it's important to interact with fans. And if you don't interact with fans, and especially a new generation of fans, then they're going to go somewhere else. So if you want the sport to be healthy, it's important for players to communicate with fans, to be more accessible to fans. And one way to do that, obviously, is Twitter. We were talking during the commercial. You've got twice as many Twitter followers as Bryce Harper. Which means
I can actually beat him in something. But no, but the question is the way to communicate with the young fans a bat flip, though? If
that's your personality, I'm all for it. I mean, I don't think people should force something. But listen, when Manny Ramirez was with the Red Sox, the first and most important thing, obviously, you have to perform on the field, and you have to be a star. But if you're a star and you let your personality out, I mean, I think basketball is filled with stars right now, and baseball doesn't have enough of them.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's Bryce Harper and obviously McCutchen. Ortiz is leaving the stage at the end of the year, is another one. I mean, we can of course list them all, and we'll forget some. So what do you do about it, though? What do you do in management about this issue when you've got a face of the game essentially saying, I'm not allowed to be me because I don't feel like getting a ball thrown at my head if I feel like being me?
Well, I would say the most important thing is the game itself. I don't want to make too much of this.
Sure.
And I think baseball is a great game. But if you are stuck in tradition, then you're not going to be current. And so, I'm for players being themselves. I'm for more access to players. We have a couple of NASCAR teams, and when a guy is in the middle of the race, he's talking to his pit crew boss.
Yeah.
He's talking to the fans who are watching it. And if I wanted to put a microphone on a player during a game, it would be considered like you don't go there. I'm not saying we have to go there, but accessibility is really important, and players have to sort of understand that. For the good of the game, if Bryce Harper thinks that the game's a little bit tired and he's got some ways to improve it, then I'm all for that.
Tom Werner here on the Rich Eisen Show. Are these sorts of the conversations that you're having amongst your fellow owners, amongst the competition committee and things of that nature? It was
important to me, and as an owner, that the game have a faster pace. And last year, we all made strides in that. It was the first time we saw a decrease in the amount of minutes during a game. We went under the 3-hour mark. I think that's really important. I don't want our fans to look at their clock, their watch in the second inning, and the game's is already in the second inning. It's an hour old. I want people to feel the game has great pace. So that's an example of let's tweak it. Let's make the game more crisp, and the world's not going to change if the game is 250 versus 310.
You thinking about putting a clock out there, Tom? Would you be up for that?
I'm a proponent of that. I know that some people don't like that. At the moment, we're doing a clock between innings. I would be fine about less advertisements per half inning and keep the game moving forward.
So take some of the commercials out of a broadcast.
I'm for that.
Well, we need less money in the pockets of you and your fellow owners.
Yeah, but
Tom.
maybe you pay more for a commercial if.
if there's less inventory.
Yeah.
See, that's why you're a businessman, and I'm sitting here behind this desk interviewing you, Tom. I've got Tom Werner here on the Rich Eisen Show, and Goose Gossage, famed Yankee fireballer, he was firing away quite a bit yesterday, talking about the nerds that run the game. And I know you are.
I might be a nerd.
Well, I mean, you're an analytic-heavy organization.
Yeah.
The Boston Red Sox,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
I mean, you're very heavy on the analytics, and
We use it as a tool.
you use it. Well, now, how much of a tool do you use it for, though, when it comes down to it?
It's part of our arsenal, but I think you've got to have a more holistic approach too. I mean, you've got to understand that it's just one tool. You know, you can read data 100 different ways. Data is valuable, but it's the person analyzing the data that makes it important.
Right, and the manager who's down on the field as well. But what about the idea that the new rules about you can't slide into second base in a manner that Chase Utley did, or slide into Buster Posey in a way that we saw was commonplace when Goose was playing the game, and he says that the game is now lesser for it. What do you say in response to that, Tom?
I like a collision at home plate, but I also, some people say, oh, you're positioning yourself on one side because you want to protect your investment. I think we're also talking about player safety, and that, some people want to see concussions, and some people don't want to see concussions. I'm on the side of less concussions.
Mm-hmm.
A guy, you can still have an exciting play at second base without having to go out of the baseline. So, if we can again make modifications, why not?
Do you think you have a problem with the old guard of the game?
I feel like change is really helpful, and people who say no change are I think, stuck. And the competition committee in football makes changes every year, right? They decide that an extra point, they should move the extra point back. They make a lot of changes.
Cost the Patriots a point in the AFC Championship game this
might
year.
have cost them the game, right?
Right, sure.
But listen, I think baseball, as I said, it's a great game. I'm not talking about 7 innings versus 9 innings, but I think that we have to change.
So how?
Improve.
Well, in terms of that, I mean, how resistant do you find it? I mean, because you were putting your name in the ring to maybe run the whole sport.
Well, first
Tom.
of all, you have to collaborate with the players. It's really important that the players understand that we're all just trying to keep the sport as healthy as possible. One of the things we talked about in the competition committee is that the amount of time it takes for a pitching change.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I'm a fan. I'm watching a manager saunter out to the mound. Now he talks for 10 or 15 more seconds because he wants the guy in the bullpen to throw a couple more pitches. Then the umpire comes out. That's kind of dead time.
So, but what do? Do you basically say you add a ball to a count?
We're
you take
pushing
something
for
away?
a rule that when the manager crosses the line, that within 30 seconds he's got a signal to the bullpen. That's the kind of minor change that maybe only speeds up the game a little bit, but it makes it crisper.
Tom Werner, the chairman of the Boston Red Sox, is here. You mentioned a partnership you have with LeBron James. It's a television show, which we'll talk about. It's also a management company that used to have Johnny Manziel as a client. I'd love to chat with you about that. And also, what does it feel like to look at somebody and say, I will pay you $217 million? I'd like to hear about that, okay? That's Tom Werner of the Boston Red Sox right here. And when we come back in a minute's time, the Broncos have acquired a quarterback via trade. I'm keen to know who that person is. We'll talk about that when we return in a minute's time with Tom Werner, chairman of the Boston Red Sox, here on The Rich Eisen Show. Welcome back to The Rich Eisen Show. Tom Werner of the Boston Red Sox, the chairman of the Boston Red Sox, sitting right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Who is Chris Law, the new Denver Broncos acquisition?
Broncos trade for a conditional draft pick with the Philadelphia Eagles for cheese fries.
Mark Sanchez.
Mark, I want you to have my cheese fries. All right.
Wow.
He was the #1 backup quarterback on most people's lists last year.
Well, I guess with Chase Daniels signed in Philadelphia, that frees up that he's out there, and he'll be part of, I imagine, a competition, or we'll find out what other moves might be made by John Elway. That's the news in the National Football League going on right now. So what is it like, Tom Werner, to pay somebody $217 million to throw a baseball, as you have for David Price?
Well,
you have to swallow hard?
You
What
have
do you
to. First of all, as you said, you have to swallow hard. But we had a direction we thought was going to be successful last year, and we obviously came to the conclusion that you really do need a #1 stud, and that's what we had when we traded for Kurt Schilling. That's what we had when we traded for Josh Beckett. That doesn't mean that person can't come up through your system, but we didn't have one last year. Dave Dombrowski, who knows pitching better than I do, this was his #1 target. I don't think he even had a #2 or #3. But David is more than just an outstanding pitcher. He has a lifetime ERA, I think, about 3.09. But beyond that, he's a leader in the clubhouse. He's going to improve everybody else around him. Eduardo Rodriguez is going to be a better pitcher this year because we've got David Price. So, yeah, you got to swallow hard. You hope that his performance is great, not just this year, but for a number of years going forward. But he does tick all the boxes. He's a great guy and a great leader. And if I'm back here next year and we haven't improved, then we have to go to Plan C. But we hope there is no other plan. This is our plan.
Right, and then speaking of Plan C, I guess Hanley Ramirez at first base would certainly sound like that. Or do you have any concerns about this?
I don't. He's a great athlete. He's working hard at it. And I'm optimistic.
As an owner of the Red Sox, are you sneaking more kale juice into Pablo Sandoval's locker in any way, shape, or form, Tom?
As you know, Rich, there have been a number of players in baseball who have not been svelte like you and me. I had the pleasure of watching Tony Gwynn for many years in San Diego, and we don't have to go through the list, but he's a 3-time World Series champion. He's had a period of adjustment last year.
But do you have any concern about his desire that you've paid him, that the Werner, the Red Sox dollars are in his pocket, and at this point in time he's just going to go out and play baseball?
No, I think he has a lot to prove this year, and I think once the season starts, we won't be having this conversation.
You don't think so?
No, I think he's going to perform well this year.
Okay, Brockman, I'm going to give you a chance to ask the chairman of your team a question before I move on
Make
this
it a
front.
softball.
I was just going to say, you talk about David Price, just the pressure he takes off guys like Rick Porcello and Joe Kelly and Henry Owens not to have to carry the big burden of being a potential ace on that team.
Right. Well, that's important. I think I was talking to Clay Buchholz, and I think Clay feels that there is less pressure. And I think, people say, how are we going to do this year? If Clay Buchholz pitches 200 innings, that's a huge improvement from the number of innings he pitched last year. There is a sense that when David takes the mound, it just reduces, as you said, the pressure on everybody else.
Plus, it helps he does well against the Yankees. That helps too, Tom.
It does.
Now, those are numbers I imagine that were put in front of you too.
Yeah, that's data we looked at.
The nerds were looking at that. The Red Sox nerds.
Wait, I also have a request.
Yes.
Can we just ask David not to accept any gifts on the road from teams during
Ortiz?
During this quote-unquote farewell
Yeah, he had a problem
tour?
with the Jeter farewell tour accepting gifts, even though it's not like Jeter had his hand out. But do you know what Ortiz's plans are for his retirement?
I had the pleasure of having dinner with David last week. What is most important to him is that, after he goes into his city and he has his usual, conversation with the media, that he's going to be focused on the game. And for him, the most important thing is that we play postseason baseball this year, and he will not be distracted by gifts and accolades.
Yeah, but they're coming his way anyway. He's going to have to accept them.
It sounds like he's going to shut him down.
Okay, very good. Okay,
That's all I'm
good. So let's talk about what's the show you're doing with LeBron?
Survivor's Remorse.
Okay.
We're in our 3rd season that we're shooting right now.
Right.
It's about a NBA superstar, not modeled after LeBron, although LeBron and Maverick have given great input.
Yeah.
But it's about how money and fame both make a family better and complicate their lives.
And people can watch it on Showtime.
They
right?
watch it on Stars.
On Stars, pardon me.
It's a highly acclaimed show,
Stars.
and you should watch it.
I will.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in.
Survivor's Remorse.
Look, you know, Susie and I have our hands full at home with 3 kids, and you know, we will definitely
We'll
set
watch
the
an
DVR.
episode together, but it's actually
good.
quite. If you watch it, you'll get hooked on it.
Now, when you hook up with LeBron, does he reach out to you? You reach out to him? How does this form? How did your relationship?
LeBron's very involved as a producer. He reads all the scripts. He talks to Maverick Carter, who is his partner, a lot about the show.
Right.
And has provided a lot of authenticity and good storylines.
And you're in a relationship with him and LRMR, the management company.
That's right. We're partners with LeBron and Maverick. And we help find sponsors for LeBron worldwide. And we did manage Johnny Manziel until recently.
Now, did you, before taking Johnny on, have a conversation with LeBron personally about should we take him on or not? Or?
That would have come from Maverick and LeBron. And listen, it's a regrettable situation. You want to be known for what you do on the field rather than what you do off the field. And everybody hopes that he gets his act together, but we decided to go in different directions.
Now, did you have a conversation with the King
me,
himself?
Not me directly.
Not you directly.
Yeah.
But you all made that collective decision.
Well, LeBron and Maverick made that.
No kidding. Huh. And you're in the Television Hall of Fame, so
I am.
mean, that's congratulations on that from
Thank you,
many years ago. You found Robin Williams in a comedy club before Mork and Mindy. Is that a true story?
Well, Marcy Carsey, my partner, and I were head of comedy at ABC, and we would spend a lot of time in comedy clubs. And one night we saw Robin, and then we said, this guy is extraordinary. And we went back and we saw him again. And we asked him if he'd be interested in doing a television series. And we introduced him to Gary Marshall, who at the time was doing Happy Days.
Sure.
And we all got excited about Robin playing an alien, put him in an episode of Happy Days. And
as Mork, right? Or as an alien, or no?
I think it's an alien. And then, I mean, the hardest thing was selling that show because Gary and Marcy and I really believed in Robin, less so the programmers at ABC. So it was an interesting...
Selling Mork and Mindy.
Selling Mork and Mindy to our associates at ABC.
And it finally pushed it through.
Yeah.
And then there's a show called Bosom Buddies.
Bosom Buddies.
Where you found a particularly unknown actor at the time.
I saw a kid who was in a comedy troupe in Cleveland.
His name was Tom Hanks.
His name was Tom Hanks. But, you know, that was our job. And we introduced
Wait, you found him
Andy
in a comedy
Kaufman.
club in Cleveland?
Yeah, he was on a comedy troupe in Cleveland. I saw a tape of him.
Uh-huh.
But that's what we did. I saw Billy Crystal before Soap. I put Billy Crystal in Soap. But, you know, now this is ancient history.
But this is incredible pop culture history, Tom, that folks who don't know that the chairman of the Boston Red Sox actually has that within his DNA. So were there analytics involved in that, too, with Tom Hanks, where there's a certain money ball to this whole business?
You could see that Tom has all that. I mean, that's when people say discovered, he had talent.
Sure.
What we were able to do was introduce that talent to a wider audience.
Yeah. In that way as well. Do you have any thoughts on the Chargers' current situation, trying to find a home, having you spent 4 years with the Padres, having similar issues finding a home
well,
down there?
as you know, California is very careful about public dollars spent for sports facilities. And in the end, there may have to be some private-public partnership with the city officials in San Diego, but there's probably going to be a referendum, and it's probably going to be decided a couple points either way. But you know, I'm sympathetic to taxpayers who say, hey, you know, this is a facility that's going to be used a dozen times a year, and it's going to cost me $400, $500, $600 million at the bottom end. How much is Stan Kroenke building his facility for? $2 billion?
Yeah.
So, you know, in the end, it's going to be a tough slog, I think, for Dean Spanos.
Can I get you to stay one more second?
Sure.
Tom Werner of the Boston Red Sox, chairman of the Boston Red Sox, is here. Still to come on the show is Brandon Marshall. Chris Law is going to quiz Chris Brockman and I on whether DeMarco Murray said a statement this year or last year based on his press conference introductory at the Tennessee Titans. Sounded a lot like last year.
Sounded very similar.
We're going to try and guess that. But that's coming up next hour. Tom Werner, one more segment with the chairman of the Boston Red Sox. I want to know about the future of Fenway Park. How's that for a tease?
Okay, good.
Okay, that's next here on The Rich Eisen Show. All right, welcome back to The Rich Eisen Show. One more segment with the Boston Red Sox chairman, Tom Werner. What is the future of Fenway Park, the jewel in Boston?
Well, it is a jewel, and at some point, the most important thing is to protect and preserve it rather than to keep making modifications. I don't know what's going to happen in 10 or 20 years, but we're very pleased with the improvements that we've made. We're not going to do any more tinkering with it. Mm-hmm. As you know, Rich, it's a cathedral of sorts. It's intimate. You know, when you go there and you see the green monster, there's nothing like it. So we're going to protect it. You know, the challenge is that we have is making sure that the neighborhood doesn't become Manhattan. What
do you mean, like overbuilt?
Where all of a sudden, you know, you drive there and there are, you know, 30-story skyscrapers in the neighborhood. I like the fact I live downtown in Boston. It's a 10-minute drive. It's a 45-minute walk. I love the fact that I can walk to Fenway Park. Not too many people can say that about Yankee Stadium.
Now, is the reason? Well, no. Look, you know, is the reason why you walk is because your Uber rating is so terrible? Tom?
My Uber rating. If you can be my psychiatrist, I found out recently I was in an Uber and my driver told me I had a very low Uber rating. And I didn't know that they were rating me. I knew I was rating them.
Oh yeah.
But
so why would you think that you're
well, I think because generally I have gotten into the car and have been then on my iPhone or.
Well, they want to talk to you?
Well, I have had a charm offensive, Rich, since I found out I had a low Uber rating. And I now I bring a box of chocolates.
You do?
In fact, I asked an Uber driver if he wanted to come in for a glass of wine after he dropped me off at home. Yeah. But my Uber rating has steadily gone up. And you know, you're laughing about this, but if you have a low Uber rating, they don't have to pick you up. So
no, I know.
If you're sitting in Manhattan, it's 5 o'clock and it's raining, you want to have an Uber driver in 3 minutes, not 30 minutes.
I think with Susie, who you know very well, and I think our Uber rating demands that the driver come with a bottle of cologne cracked over his head. Because I think my rating's very low. Susie's got to be 0 because when she gets in a car, it's like, seriously, Dracar Noir has been released within the confines of the automobile.
Right.
Do you find that as well?
Yeah. Well, now we have something.
But I don't want to. You know, that's part of the. I don't want to ruin the charm offensive that you've got going on right here. Okay. So to wrap up, Pablo Sandoval doesn't need to lose any weight. Or am I putting words in your mouth?
You know what? I
love this.
I think
maybe like 5 pounds.
See, I'm wrapping up as a Yankee fan with it.
Maybe like 5.
I think the most important thing is that
he doesn't hit 230.
You know, we don't weigh him, but I do. You know, obviously,
just don't hit 230 this year, Pablo, and we're fine.
Don't interpret for the owner of the Red Sox.
Sorry.
You see that? That's one of your passionate fans, right?
Yeah,
there,
I love we're talking about it.
Okay.
I was excited, and hopefully he hits 280 and all's good.
Ortiz is not accepting any gifts.
No gifts.
It's a no gift policy.
Okay. No, I didn't say that. I'm saying we're going to get the gifts over with and focus on baseball.
And I will take my son on his 30th birthday to see Fenway Park in its current state so I can say that's where Bucky Dent hit the home run.
Yeah. Bucky blank Dent.
Is that the rudest possible way for me to say goodbye, Brockman?
Not great.
See, I'm looking directly at Brockman, not at you, as you noticed.
Not great.
Hey, Tom, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Good luck to the Red Sox and Liverpool and all of your ventures that too numerous to count.
All right, it's great to be here.
When is the LeBron show on the air, the one that you do with him?
It's on. It will be on for the 3rd season on Stars.
Right.
Coming back in July.
In July. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah,
when the Red
thank
Sox
you.
will be multiple games up in the
10
American
games
League
in
East.
first place.
You heard it from Tom Werner himself.
Yes.
Here on the Rich Eisen Show. When we come back, we'll take your phone calls. A few of you have been holding at 844-204-RICH. Brandon Marshall will be here from the New York Jets. We'll get an update on the news from the Chris Command Center, which will try and stump us on whether DeMarco Murray said something this year or last, because he seems to be in a Groundhog Day situation. Thanks for coming on, Tom.
All right, thanks for having me.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.